Alright everybody, welcome welcome back to First Attack, even though we haven't done anything yesterday. How is the audio looking for everybody right now? Is it still desynced or is it looking a lot better now? Audio is perfect, still desynced, says some people. And I wonder if wow, everybody says this is I wonder if this is Twitch's servers here, because I haven't changed anything. Everything is exactly as it is. Well, I mean, it seems like some people are actually blaming Twitch's servers right now. So, I guess I'm just going to keep going right now. Just pretend I'm a ventriloquist puppet or something. And that, you know, someone really has their hand up my ass or something like that and using me as a puppet, and they're just really bad at ventriloquism. So, let's go ahead and get started here. So, what I'm going to continue on, like I said before the break, what I want to talk about is attack vectors again. I want to kind of go back to that. We talked a lot about that 3 weeks ago where, you know, I tried to get people to start seeing the game a little bit differently, you know, in terms of viewing it as opposed to just kind of seeing the characters on the screen and knowing where the attacks are. I wanted people to start viewing the game in terms of, you know, opponents' options and how they get in, and what I called attack vectors. So let's go back to training mode again here, and I'm gonna pick a couple of characters here. So last time when I talked about attack vectors, I focused a lot on offense, you know, on just basically picking how to attack. And I can't find this character. Here he is. I focused a lot on how to attack, and I focused a lot on, you know, viewing how you're supposed to approach the enemy. You know, and while I did touch a little bit upon defense, so here we go. I'm going to switch over to the game view. Here. So here we go. So I focused a little bit on how you're supposed to use it for defense, you know. But for the most part, I approached the whole thing from a very offensive perspective. If you remember, we were talking about Rufus versus Ryu last week, and I was talking about how Rufus. Let's turn him into human here. I was talking about how Rufus actually had quite a few attack vectors here. I mentioned that, you know, he had the attack vector. When he's up close, he's going to have the attack vector of the dive kick. And, you know, in general, when the opponent's getting ready for that, he can back off here and use the attack vector of this kick right here. Forgot the name of that kick exactly. I'm going to look it up just so I can have the right name for it. The glory kick. The glory kick, really? Alright, so, you know, from this distance you have the glory kick, which is a good attack vector. And then a few other options that I didn't talk about. When he's further back, he can use the crouching fierce to kind of try to, you know, zone you a little bit, keep you honest from moving back and forth. And then, you know, he'll have other options as well, such as just trying to get in with the galactic tornado and such. You know, a lot of people have asked me before, you know, what the difference between, you know, just coming up with a game plan is and knowing your matchups. A lot of knowing the matchups comes down to knowing how to stop your opponent's attack vectors. So this is why it's actually really important to know a lot of characters, and especially in a game like Street Fighter, where your character, the offense is not as potent in Street Fighter. Alright, and I'm going to get into this a little bit later on. This is very important. Offense is not nearly as potent in this game as it is in a lot of the other games. So knowing character matchups becomes very important. And a character like Rufus here, so from this distance here, you know, he can dash in and get the dive kick. He can try a really high up dive kick. He can try the glory kick. He can do low fierce, like I said. He can do galactic tornado and just kind of slide at you and attack. Now, knowing these options is what is going to make your defense that much more powerful. So if you think about it here, let me go ahead and draw it on the whiteboard. And sorry guys, people have mentioned that there was a lag desync. I've restarted the stream and everything. So for those of you who are just tuning in, the lag desync is there. I'm not able to do anything about it right now. Apparently it has to do with Twitch. So yeah, that's right, Angry Corn Dog. I'm not out of sync. You guys are out of sync. You guys just don't know. That's all. That's all it comes down to. So here we go. Let me switch over once again to the close-up cam here. So here we go. Kung Fu movie. You will not be able to stop my technique. Anyway, here we go. So I'm going to go back to the whiteboard here. Hope you guys can see this. I know that before in the past I've had some focus issues here. You know why I can't focus on this? Because Ultra David's here and I do not have level 3 focus today. So that is where the problem is coming from. Let's see if I can get this to go here. And let's go. Come on, focus, focus. I cannot get this thing to focus at all. Apologies, guys. Give me a second here. Come on, camera. Come on, camera. Alright, let me move this back a little bit. Alright, let me keep talking while I try to get this in focus here. I mean, the most important thing to really understand about trying to, yeah, there it is. It's that reflection. I knew it. Okay, I'm getting used to this now. As I keep doing this, I'll get used to this a little bit. So let's draw the ground right here again. Here's the screen like we've had before, right? So if you think about it for a second here, you know, if you have Rufus sitting here on this side right here, so you have Rufus right here. I just talked about a bunch of options here where he can falcon kick, and so that's a little bit, you know, you can kind of aim it down a little bit as a vector. He can also jump and, you know, do a dive kick from up here. He can galactic tornado, which is a straight through vector right here. And he can low fierce, which is, you know, pretty much the same kind of vector here. So obviously the difference between using the glory kick and the low fierce is the glory kick gets you in so that you have a better chance of attacking Adon up close. Low fierce is more of a zoning tool. So here we go. We have all these vectors to get in here. And if you know Rufus, if you're very aware of how to play Rufus, if you know what his strategies are, you know, I talked about it before when I mentioned Alex Vi. You know, if he was Ryu and he was standing over here, he would whiff a lot of stand roundhouses and stand fierces to hit this area to stop the dive kick. Unfortunately, that doesn't stop any of these vectors here because he's vulnerable down here. So knowing that all of these vectors of attack that Rufus has here, and I really wish I had this match on stream to show you guys. Unfortunately, I don't have this, so you're just going to have to take my word for it. But this last week at ECT, the reason why I have chosen to pick Adon here was because I was watching the match between GamerB and Ricky Ortiz. And GamerB was doing something very, very important to me. Because, you know, I had just talked about the glory kick. You know, I had just talked about this move being a way for Rufus to get in. And when I was watching GamerB play in this match, what I saw him do was neutral jump quite a bit. Now, keep in mind that Adon has a really, really powerful straight-up jump roundhouse. I mean, look at that. I can kick you at the top of your head and I can still combo low short. And it just has mad priority and it hits really low, so it's a super, super good move here, right? So the reason why I picked Adon here is because when I was watching GamerB play against Ricky, he was kind of doing this a lot. And the one time I saw Ricky do a falcon kick, you know, GamerB just happened to jump. I'm doing this with two hands. There you go. And he actually stopped the falcon kick and hit him. And then I started thinking to myself here, wow, what the heck is Ricky supposed to do to a neutral jumping Adon here? And the reason why that this became really significant is because, let us go back to the whiteboard, ladies and gentlemen, and yes, this will be on the test later on today. If you look at this whiteboard here, I talked about how Ryu was able to use this space up here to his advantage. Well, take a look at all these attack vectors from Rufus. They're all basically hitting in this area over here. Once again, the biggest problem with this is that he's not covering this space up here. So what Adon has to, so if Adon neutral jumps right here, and let's say he gets all the way up here and does jumping roundhouse, you notice his attack vector goes this way. And this attack vector beats all of these four options that I've listed for Rufus. This is really important to know, because without knowing this in advance, without knowing the matchups, there's no way GamerB was going to know this. So as a result, because he knows the matchup, because he knows and understands Rufus as well as he understands his own character, he can formulate a defensive plan to hurt Rufus's attack options. Even if Rufus does a low fierce here, I can still beat that. If Rufus does a okay, you know what? I'm just gonna use the record. let's do that again. Even if Rufus decides to use the Galactic Tornado, I still beat that. And even if Rufus decides to try to dive kick me like this, I may not be able to hit him necessarily, but I've put him in a really bad situation here. So you can see now how just by understanding all the different aspects of Rufus's attack, that GamerB is able to formulate a plan to be able to stop him from attacking. So in other words, if Adon at this range is amazing, right? He can standing roundhouse you, he can catch you with Jaguar kicks, he can low fierce you, you know, he can just take a step and sweep you. He's really good at this distance. So at this distance in which he's optimized versus Rufus, if he throws out this neutral jump, you can control so much of Rufus's attack. So here's the tricky thing now. So the question really comes down to, okay, well, guess what? Ricky beat GamerB, right? So if this is so effective at beating Rufus, what the heck did Ricky do to beat this? Well, you know, Ultra David talked about this a lot on a level 3 focus episode. I think it was the same week where he talked about adapting. And, you know, the examples that he was using was Marlin Pie versus Filipino Champ. And the nice thing about, you know, Ricky is that he's a super smart guy. He understands the different attack vectors. And if he... See, now here's the tricky thing. If he knows his own attack vectors, and he knows that GamerB is going to want to stop him by doing a neutral jump roundhouse like this, that actually kind of opens up a few things, you know, for Ricky. He can try to get in there with an EX Snake Strike, for example. Just a dash up forward. Or, you know, the thing about it is, you notice that Adon is trying to hit roundhouse on the way down to punish him. Well, the thing is, if Ricky knows this and can predict this, when he jumps straight up, he can get a little forward dash like this. He gets a free way in because Adon is not trying to control space with the stand roundhouse anymore. He's spending his time regular jumping, neutral jumping straight up and down with roundhouse like this. So if Ricky knows that Adon is not controlling the space, he may dash forward here, try to predict him going up, and as soon as he does, catches him with the jump roundhouse into an ultra, for example, like that. So again, conversely, by understanding where GamerB is trying to attack from, he can actually get his offense going to counter Adon's defense. Now, I'm kind of glad we're going in this direction, talking about vectors and all this stuff like that, because this really gets into an important situation here. And this is actually probably one of the more fundamental, important aspects of fighting games. And so we're going to take a break, and then you'll find out what it is. So stick around, guys. We will be right back with some more First Attack. Welcome back to First Attack, everybody. And the answer to that question, Liquid SRK, is 5 o'clock. See, that's what happens when you actually start, understanding high-level Street Fighter. Anyway, so what I'm going to continue with here, I've been talking a little bit about attack vectors and how you can use it as defense here. And, I did it just a little bit. I showed you a little bit of an example of how GamerB can use Adon's neutral jump to neutralize a lot of Rufus's attack vectors. Hang on, let me switch it to the other view. And again, I apologize to everybody who is just recently tuning in. Yes, I know that the stream is out of sync. I restarted the stream and people on the chat are telling me that this is a problem with Twitch servers right now, not with the stream. So I am going to choose to believe them for now. Unless someone can give me a better option. So, I talked a little bit about attack vectors and defense and all this stuff, and I do apologize. I mean, I do make this very technical when I talk about this kind of stuff. And ironically, I say that I try to make this for beginners as much as possible. And believe me, when I have different kinds of episodes, where I have episodes, where I just talk about execution and how to do controllers, I try to keep it a little bit simpler. But, attack vectors is kind of a controlling space, understanding your opponent's options is kind of a little bit higher level strategy. It's a higher level concept. So it is going to be a little bit technical. It is going to be a little complicated. So I apologize about that. But let's keep going. What we have here is a situation where knowing your opponent's attack vectors will help you improve your defense. Now, before the break, I hinted at that there's a very important fundamental concept when I talked about how Adon could neutral jump to blow up most of Rufus's attacks, but Ricky still won that match. And he did so because he was able to figure out, it's that whole I know that you know that I know that you know that I know that you know that I know that you knew that I was going to do that. And so that's why I beat you. And that's kind of what Ricky did to defeat GamerB, despite having such a valid defensive tactic to shut down most of Ricky's attack vectors. So the reason why I've switched to this match here is because this is probably one of the most simple matches to understand in terms of attack vectors, in terms of controlling space, in terms of understanding how to view this match. This match has not changed since Street Fighter 2. In fact, even in the alpha games, when it was Zangief versus Charlie, it was still almost kind of the same thing. Street Fighter 2 Zangief Guile, Street Fighter 4 Zangief Guile, it's always been the same. Let's take a look at this match a little closer, shall we? And I am going to make sure I switch camera views for you guys. Alright, so here we go. Back to this thing here. Back to the amazing whiteboard of power. Let's kill this here, and let's draw the screen again. Now this is going to be a lot simpler for everybody, because honestly, Zangief does not have a lot of options. Let's take the EX Hurricane. Let's take the EX Green Hand out of the equation for now. So we're gonna have Guile. I would use the green color, but green is out of ink, so I'm just going to use red to stand for... actually, you know what? I should use blue, because Guile is American, and this is part of the red, white, and blue. Here we go. So Guile is going to be crouching here like this. Zangief, on the other hand, part of the Soviet Union, so I will use the color red. So here we go. Here's Zangief right here. The problem with Zangief here versus Guile... Oops, out of focus again. Let's block this here. There we go. There you go. Level 3 focus back in effect. The problem now with Zangief versus Guile is that Guile has one very, very, very super effective attack vector, Sonic Boom. Right here. This attack vector really blows up most of what Zangief wants to do. So Zangief's entire attack vector is either walk up to Guile here or try to jump over the Sonic Boom. Now the problem is Guile is in full control of this because he does not need to necessarily throw a Sonic Boom. Because knowing Zangief's options, he has his own defensive tactics against these attack vectors. He has this really great low forward here, which blows Zangief up. And if Zangief jumps here, he has the flash kick that will destroy everything that Zangief tries. So Guile is in total control because as soon as he throws this Sonic Boom, Zangief is in big trouble. If he could jump over the Sonic Boom 100% of the time when Guile throws a Sonic Boom, this would not be a hard match. But Guile has a lot of control in this because he can just sit here and throw out low forwards and occasional Sonic Booms to catch Zangief by surprise. Zangief's frontal attack vector here, very weak. Very, very weak in this matchup because he can't get past this Sonic Boom very well. Jumping is a problem because if Guile doesn't throw a Sonic Boom, he's going to flash kick you out of the air. And so, interestingly enough, this becomes a very, very rough match for Zangief. So, what is the major point that I wanted to bring up here before I went on break that I said was so important? What it really comes down to, I love this fight as a Zangief player. I have played this fight since Hyper Fighting, since Classic, since Super Turbo. This is absolutely one of my favorite fights. As hard as this fight might be to defeat Guile, it was like a personal, it was a personal area of pride for me to be able to beat Guiles with Zangiefs. This was, you know, during Hyper Fighting days before there was Cammy, when I was a grappler user, when I was a Zangief user. Wow, really? I can't grab him from that far. Okay. Thought it reached further than before. Anyway, the main point being here that the way that this match now has to be broken down, and as a Zangief player here, I have to understand that I am fighting an uphill battle here. I cannot walk forward against Zangief, against Guile, because his low forward, very effective tool to keeping Zangief out. Zangief has a few ways to try to hit it, like so. But I mean, what is my reward? Guile is in the same place that he is before, and I did this little piddly damage. And while I'm sitting here trying to stand short him, Guile is going to be like, oh, you're doing this, huh? So I am just going to throw a Sonic Boom at you. Like so. And then I'm going to stand short into the Sonic Boom, and then I'm going to get desperate and jump and get flash kicked out of the air. So, knowing that my opponent understands my attack vectors is what is going to help me win this fight. And this is where mind games come in. This is how you start playing with mind games. Because you know what your opponent's attack vectors are, this is how you train your opponents. A lot of people have asked me this question. How do you train your opponents? What are mind games? What is Yomi? And the entire concept can be boiled down in its very basic concept to understanding what your opponent's options are, what your opponent's attack vectors are, or maybe even in this case with Guile, what his defense what his defensive vectors are. Here I am with Zangief. If he's going to sit here and low forward at me all day, it's going to be really hard for me to beat this, right? How do I beat this low forward Sonic Boom barrage when I'm trying to get in right now? The way to do it is if he low forwards and I can somehow magically trade with this. And look at this. I even know the timing and I'm trying to trade with this. That is not realistic. You are going to get yourself destroyed trying to trade with him all day. So another one is to try to get in close enough so that you can standing forward or standing strong or something like this. But let me show you this right now. Guile's low forward is, you know, if I try to standing forward at the same time, look at this. So if Guile forward kicks and I standing forward, I lose. If I try to standing strong, I lose. So there's all these horrible options here. The best I can get is a walk-up SPD probably. This is not good for me. Now here's the thing. Guile is only going to be able to effectively keep you out in the front by throwing Sonic Booms. Right? This is how he is going to defeat Zangief. As much as my low forward is really good, if I just say on low forward and that's it, Zangief will be able to figure out a way to get in. Because Guile is relying on one move. You're never going to win with one move. So he's got to throw a Sonic Boom every once in a while to get me going. Now here's the thing. Guile knows that I'm going to be trying to jump over a Sonic Boom all day. So he's going to throw him out sparingly. So I'm going to jump over and he's going to flash kick me. And I'm just going to whittle my life away all day. Right? So, again, yes, some people are mentioning in there right now that you can just EX Green Hand through Sonic Boom. But let's take that out of equation, okay? Because like I said, this match has remained fairly consistent since Hyper Fighting, since Super Turbo. There was no EX Green Hand back then to be able to win this fight. So how did you win this fight a long time ago? As a Zangief player, as soon as Guile throws a Sonic Boom here, if I react too late to it, if I react to the Sonic Boom and jump, Guile's got about 7 anti-air options. He's got, you know, this. He's got low fierce to trade. He's got back fist fierce. You've watched Dominion play. You've seen him use all those anti-air options which just destroy people jumping in. So reacting to a Sonic Boom from this far away and trying to jump in is a bad idea because Guile has all of this option to be able to just see where you're jumping and hit you accordingly. Trying to EX Green Hand from here is not a good idea. I'll go through the Sonic Boom and he'll fierce me in the face. The one option that most Zangief players do not use enough is walking up and blocking the Sonic Boom. And why am I going to walk up and block the Sonic Boom? Because Guile's gonna Sonic Boom and I'm gonna walk up and block. And I'm gonna walk up and block. Sonic Boom pushes me away about this far away. And I'm gonna walk up and block again. And he's gonna throw another Sonic Boom. And it's gonna push me away. And I'm gonna walk up again. And he's gonna throw a Sonic Boom. And I'm gonna block it. And he's gonna push me away. How many times do you guys want me to repeat this stream? I'll say it one more time. I'm going to walk up here. He's going to throw a Sonic Boom. I'm going to block it. He's going to push me away. In fact, I'll say it one more time. I'm going to walk up. He's going to Sonic Boom. I'm going to block it. He's going to push me away. So why is this effective? Why is this actually a strategy that's working here? I am doing this on purpose. I am walking up and blocking a bunch of times against the Sonic Boom. And why? It's because I understand his attack vectors. I understand that his low forward is an effective attack vector, but his Sonic Boom is the best option for him. It is by far the most space controlling. It gives Guile the most options. So now what I am doing right now is I am training my opponent into throwing Sonic Booms. I am getting him comfortable in his number one option. I am taking his best option and I am making it better for him. I am walking up and blocking and I am giving him little success after little success by taking chip damage or maybe walking in and getting hit by a Sonic Boom. What this ends up doing, I am sacrificing my life, little bits of life of walking up and blocking, so that now I have trained my opponent into feeling comfortable throwing a Sonic Boom at this distance right here. I've walked up, I've blocked a Sonic Boom, got pushed back. And I'll walk up again and dance here, and maybe he doesn't throw Sonic Boom. But then he throws another one, and I block it. I get pushed back. And now he's noticing that I'm not doing anything, so he's just going to Sonic Boom. And as he gets into this rhythm, what happens is now, magically, Guile feels safe at this distance throwing a Sonic Boom. So, at one key moment, as soon as I walk into this distance, I'm just going to jump. I told you, if he Sonic Booms, whoops, if he Sonic Booms and I jump afterwards, he has all the time in the world to react to me. But if he Sonic Booms and I jump at the same time, Guile is in trouble. So what I have done here is, since I understand his attack vectors, I have trained him over and over again to feel safe so that I can jump over the Sonic Boom when he throws it. And now I'm in, and this is where all madness takes place. Once I get in and Guile is stand blocking and he blocks my jump fierce, he cannot charge up for flash kick anymore, and I'm close. So now I have all these options. I can keep jumping over him, try to cross him up, or I can land here, fake him out with, oh, I'm not actually going to do a spinning pile driver. Instead, I'm going to do some crazy Vangief combo, whatever he does, or a crazy Snake Eyes combo, and get all these hits on Guile, and get in and hit him, or I'm going to SPD him. So what I've actually done is train him all this entire time. Now, someone has asked on this stream right here, what if he doesn't Sonic Boom? Oh, it's Liquid SRK. This guy is batting 1,000 here today. If Liquid SRK, he asked, what if he doesn't throw that Sonic Boom and I just happen to jump at him? Well, then good for Guile. He read you. He read you. He understood what you were doing. And at that particular moment, he felt like, okay, he's trying to get me into Sonic Boom. I'm not going to Sonic Boom. Zangief jumps. You flash kick him. As the Zangief player, all you can do at that certain time is just applaud him. So, and I don't think I quite understand his question here right now. Unsafe recovery jump. Yeah, I mean, most likely Legend of Zelda actually kind of has it right. That, right now, because I've walked up and blocked so many times, Guile's going to get to a point where he doesn't think I'm going to jump anymore. He just doesn't think, because I've walked up and blocked, and I've gotten hit by a Sonic Boom, and I've blocked, and he's winning. He's doing damage to me. And in this kind of a situation, me and David talk about it a lot, how life bar isn't necessarily the most important thing. You can take damage and you're sacrificing your own health to get the win later on. If I actually manage to land this on a Guile and I get in, or I manage to go boom, boom, and then walk up and SPD him, I'm going to drain this giant chunk of life. Look how much damage Guile just took there. I can block 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Sonic Booms, even eat one Sonic Boom by standing short into it. And then once I get in and actually SPD him, I'm going to do more damage than him. And now I've got Guile panicking because I'm right next to him. I'm going to SPD him, try to get up close, and here we go. Now I have mix-up games going again. So that's basically, and yes, Big Timers has it right. Yomi is mind conditioning. We even talked about this a little bit last week on when we were doing the VF5 stuff. Gerald said he's just going to keep doing low punch into elbow, just to see what opponent is going to do. And from that point, he's conditioned and he's figured out what the opponent's going to do, and that way he can counter it properly. Street Fighter is no different. It's the way it's always been. You're conditioning your opponent. You're understanding what he's trying to do. Now, like Liquid SRK said, if a smart Guile player understands that you understand that, he is going to play very defensive, and every once in a while he's going to understand not to overcommit himself to Sonic Booms, despite the fact that it's working so well. This is why Dominion wins tournaments, because he's smart like that. And this is why, even as a person who loves using Zangief versus Guiles, I've had a history of beating really good Guiles with Zangief back in Hyper Fighting Super Turbo days. But if I played against Dominion right now, he would probably body me for free because he understands how to mix things up, throw off the timing, and he doesn't let himself get baited into these rhythms. And that's the reason. And that's Street Fighter. This is how Street Fighter works. This is, you know, I mean, a lot of people ask how mind games work, how you condition people. And it's kind of an impossible question to answer, to be honest with you. It's very hard because a lot of the times it really just comes down to feel. It just really comes down to emotion. And, that is why I was so interested in watching Bala versus Tokido this weekend at MLG. Bala is the kind of player that if you talk to him about attack vectors, if you talk to him about Yomi, mind games, if you talk to him about all these kind of things, he'll just look at you and shrug. He'll just be like, I have no idea what the heck you're talking about, right? John Choi, Alex Vai, these are all players who play this way. They play through emotion, they play through gut feelings and such. And so, trying to break this whole thing down to this scientific thing about attack vectors and all that stuff, kind of doing a disservice sometimes to players because players play through different means. But I get the question a lot, how does it work? And you get a lot of players more like Edma, more like Ultra David, these scientific players who understand this kind of concept, myself included. This is how I play fighting games. I don't play from this emotional standpoint like a lot of these other guys do. So, Tokido is another perfect example. He is a super scientific player. He understands what your options are, what his options are, and that's how he defeats you. And this is why I was so interested in watching Bala versus Tokido, because I wanted to see how that played out in King of Fighters. So that's what it was such a huge clash to me, the science versus the emotion. And the emotion came out on top, as oftentimes it does. So what I'm trying to do by pointing out these attack vectors and having people understand about how to train your opponents, how to understand how to condition opponents, is I'm trying to give a lot of the players, this helps both players. This helps the scientific players because they will listen to me babble on and on about this, and rather than sit there and go, I don't know what you're talking about, James, I'm lost. Rather than doing that, a lot of people are going to be sitting here going, wow, that's cool, I get it. I think I understand now. I understand more about training your opponents. Another perfect example of this is I had a conversation about Alpha 2 with someone, again, Zangief versus Adon. And the guy told me Adon has an instant uppercut, and his low strong beats all of Zangief's move. On paper, that means Adon should be able to beat Zangief for free. Adon's standing roundhouse beat everything Zangief did, etc., etc. So he had an uppercut to stop his jumps. He had a low strong that beat all of his pokes, and a stand roundhouse that zoned perfectly. Back a long time ago, what I always described it as, we basically had a grudge match at B3 to find out, because I said that wasn't going to work, and he insisted that it would. So we met up at B3, because this was an AGSF2 theory fighter argument. And we played specifically this match, and I have always told myself as a Zangief player, the whole basis of your matchup is to obsess the opponent with the ground game. So that is exactly what I did with Zangief. I just kept walking at Adon from the front. Yeah, he could uppercut me anytime I jumped at him because unlike Guile, he's got an instant uppercut. So what I did was I obsessed my opponent with the ground game. I kept coming in from the ground, took a few stand roundhouses, ate a few low strongs, just so that I trained him into playing this ground game, and then I would jump. He would not be ready for it. I would be able to get in, and that's how I actually managed to beat him. And so, on paper, it is absolutely 100% Adon should beat Zangief. But in real life, because you're able to train your opponent, because we're all human, that is what is going to prevent those kind of 100% tactics from winning. And obviously a lot of people know that I am a Cammy player, and I always talk bad about Cammy. I was having an argument with Kino at a Wednesday night fights a while ago. Kino Caesar, of course, the Balrog player, who took a break, came back, and won 2 Wednesday night fights in a row. And I gave him every reason why Cammy has trouble winning matches. And Kino came back basically with the number one argument, which was, we're all human. You're not going to be able to counter everything, all these options that you've given me to beat Cammy. And he was absolutely right. I mean, he basically countered me with the argument that I gave a long time ago. That Cammy, although she has all these very vulnerable options, we're all human. And as long as Cammy can rush you down at a point where you cannot gather yourself, you are going to be able to defeat opponents very badly, as we saw with a few matches from Chairithi. Beating up on his opponents at the Canada tournaments. That's gonna happen, and yes, and that's what makes Cammy good and effective. So that's why at this point in time I do rate her as a top of mid-tier character. Like I said, she's about 12th place for me right now in rankings. A lot of people say that's still too low. I don't know. To me, honestly, I don't picture 12th place being too low because 12th place in this game is ridiculously good. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Again, back to my original point. Sorry, I drop in tangents a lot. The whole point of this discussion here is just to help the scientific players understand how to train your opponents and beat them. And at the same time, what I'm hoping it does for the emotion players is that they understand now where they can start developing this feel. And you can explain this feel, but as long as you can kind of understand, there's this threat level, there's this tension that you feel. When you see Zangief walk up closer to you, you get this tension level. And this is how the emotion players feel. When Zangief's over here, you feel safer. So when Zangief gets into this high tension level, you throw a sonic boom. Because if he blocks it and gets pushed away, that relieves a little bit of that tension factor. You've all felt this before. When an opponent gets into a certain position and you just get warm all of a sudden. You feel this warmth and you're like nervous. You get these nerves. And so you do the panic thing and you throw the sonic boom and you push them away. And that's how players like me, when I use Zangief, are going to beat your Guile. Because emotionally, I understand when I get this close, you feel that panic. You throw that sonic boom. And so what I'm trying to do is emotionally let you feel safer. I'm going to walk up and block that sonic boom. And as I keep walking to this distance, your panic factor, your level of fear starts dropping with every sonic boom that I block, because I haven't done anything to stop you yet. And so if I'm playing against an emotional player, I will try to create your comfort level so that the next time I get to this point, you're going to throw a sonic boom, I'm going to jump, and I'm going to get in, and that's how I'm going to beat you. So you can see how this works. Understanding these concepts works from a technical scientific level and from an emotional level at the same time. All right, so I'm going to take a break real quick, and when I come back, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask on the stream here. And when I come back, I'm going to do a little bit some more of these Ask jchensor questions. I'm going to try to answer a few more than usual because we don't have a level 3 focus episode tonight. So I'm going to answer a few more questions. But if you have any questions about this game, because I want to emphasize this is really important. This is really important to understand about how to play Street Fighter. Oh, there's one more topic I wanted to cover about attack vectors before I get into that. So let me take a break and I'll get to that really quick. And I'll be right back. Alright, welcome back everybody to First Attack. I want to address something that Big Timers mentioned here. He actually said that, he thinks that I can think faster than I can react, and this is absolutely true. I want to point this out, and this is why I've been having so much trouble with games like Marvel. My reaction time is very poor. I always joke on stream that it's because I'm an old man. But to be honest with you, there are plenty of old men with amazing reactions like Alex Valle. And the reason why I actually say these things is that I've always been a scientific player. I'm very bad at the emotional play. I'm very scientific and I overthink matches. I literally overthink matches, which is why people can bait me. Emotional players can bait me into doing things. I always say that, as a Kami player, I have an uppercut. People should not be jumping at me, but people jump at me all the time and I just block because I have bad reactions. I mean, just watch my matches one of these days. Anytime you see me on stream using Kami, count how many times people jump at me. And it doesn't matter whether it's Street Fighter 4 or Super Turbo or whatnot. They jump at me and I block. And that is probably one of my number one weaknesses when it comes to Street Fighter, is that my reaction timing is really bad. It's what makes me bad in Marvel as well. And I'm kind of glad that I'm talking about James Chen confirmed Vi is old. Yeah, no, he's not old, trust me. To me, he's still a young buck, man. But the thing that I wanted to mention was, I talk about all these attack vectors, about training your opponents, and I gave that Gamerby example there, where he could neutral jump and cover all these attack vectors from Rufus and all this other stuff, and how to use these attack vectors on defense, right? So that neutral jump example with Adon was a great example of how you can use it as a defensive tactic. The main subject I wanted to bring up at the very end of this episode was how this changes by game. From game to game, how things change. I said in Street Fighter, you really got to know your matchups. As Adon, Gamerby understood the matchup, so he's going to neutral jump roundhouse a lot because that covers all of Rufus's attack vectors. Now let's think about this if we go to King of Fighters. Now let's think about this if we go to Marvel. Two very, very different games. Very, very different games. And why? It's because in both of those games, the attack vectors are too powerful. King of Fighters is potent attack vectors. Marvel is just ridiculous attack vectors. If we wanted to rate attack options in Street Fighter 4, we could probably rate it a 5, okay? Because defense is a 5, right? 5. Because, your attack options versus their defense options are always going to battle one to one. If we go to King of Fighters, I'm going to rate that probably about a 7 or 8 in terms of attack potential. And defense potential for King of Fighters is probably about a 2 or 3. If we go to Marvel, attack options are probably 10. Heck, they might even be 11. And defensive options are really low. This, of course, depends on the characters, because I know everybody's on the stream is going to be like, yo, Chris G, yo, Morgan, Dr. Doom. Okay, let's not get there right now. My main point, and I'll address it because people will probably want me to. The thing that comes down to now is when you think about this in terms of attack vectors versus defense vectors, let's call them defense areas, areas of screen where you control. Again, please, if you have not read it, please go to Domination 101 forums on SRK. Ponder, aka Tony Cannon, put up a bunch of Seth Killian's old articles. He basically reposted them there. So even though they're posted under Ponder, they're actually all of Seth Killian's articles. He wrote one about controlling space. Controlling space, very defensive tactic, and it's very important. He talks about Sakura and Alpha 3, stand roundhouse, etc. It all applies to fighting games today. So please take some time to read that. Again, that's the Domination 101 articles in SRK forums. But, what happens with the attack vectors when they're more powerful than the defense vectors is that you don't have to think about the defense as much. One of the reasons why you see players like Bala, like Mr. KOF, able to switch characters so much is because you can actually play a lot of the characters very similarly. The rushdown in King of Fighters, because you have 4 different ways to jump, and you have a dash, and you have a just walk up, and you have whatever pokes that you happen to have. Because you have all these options, defense is really, really weak in King of Fighters. And what you start seeing a lot of players do in King of Fighters is they basically are doing guess defense. You'll see Benimaru's throwing a lot of standing Bs out because that kick kind of hits diagonally up. What they're doing is trying to preemptively stop short hops. You'll see Yuri's throw out Saihas, the reflect. They'll just throw them out into the sky, trying to preemptively stop people from jumping. Ash will always throw up that little fireball that controls that portion of the screen. They're preemptively trying to stop attack vectors because the attack vectors are too potent. And what happens is, in Street Fighter, a lot of the times blocking attack vectors is a success. In King of Fighters, not so much. If you block a low hop, you're still going to get so beat up because they're going to do low hop, low hop, low hop, low hop and kill you, right? So, the defense is very preemptive, and that's why you see a lot of the times the strategy in King of Fighters is literally just to use the blowback, get him off of you, block and just get him off of you, or once you get into the corner, kind of pseudo predict a low hop or a regular hop and roll under it and get away. These are like the main defensive options in King of Fighters is, just get away from the situation and try to reset the situation. Whereas in Street Fighter, a lot of the times, if you know where the attack is coming from, you can counter it on reaction by seeing it. Again, you're going to be throwing out those standing Bs with Benimaru and such like that preemptively. You're not reacting to their low hop and kicking them out of the air. You're trying to catch them beforehand. So your defense is to try to get away. This is so prevalent in Marvel now. You can understand all of your opponent's attack vectors and it just doesn't matter. You've just got to get the hell away from your opponent. And this is the number one area of why I am so bad at Marvel. And so this is actually really key. I understand these concepts very well and I can't apply it to Marvel. I still get beat up by Marvel. So trust me, I understand everybody out there who says that they understand this kind of stuff and still can't apply it. So they can listen to me babble on and go, I get it, and then still go and get bodied. And they're like, I can't apply it. Trust me, I feel your pain because I can't apply this to Marvel either. But I have said this a million times on stream. You can block 10 things in a row in Marvel and get hit by the 11th, and there is no point at which the opponent failed. They are expecting you to block. They don't care how often you block. They will keep coming at you until you die. So the whole goal of Marvel is to push block them away, find a way to super jump, or just find a way to get the hell out of there and start your own offense. I've said it a million times. I started blocking Flo's Dante in vanilla. He would use Wesker gun assist and Dante, and he would cross me up, low shoot me in the legs, and I would just die, and I was just like, how do I defend this? See, Street Fighter mentality. I understand where your attack vectors are coming from, but it's not helping me. I still die. I can't defend this. How do you get away? How do you live once I start blocking? And his answer was, you don't, you die. And so I was like, that doesn't make sense. So how come Justin doesn't get killed by this all day, right? And then I watched Justin play Flo, and he was never in that situation. He just never got into that situation where Flo could apply those attack vectors. So in these games like Marvel and King of Fighters, understanding the attack vectors is basically how you escape, is understanding how you're going to get away, as opposed to Street Fighter, which is how, which understanding these vectors teaches you how to counter them. You don't counter things in Marvel at all. In King of Fighters, yes, you can. You can occasionally uppercut some people. Occasionally, EX Tornado Kick with King. You're going to catch people out of the air. Occasionally, you're going to do an anti-air Neo Max level 2 desperation move or something like that. That's why I rate King of Fighters as a 7 or an 8, not like the Marvel levels. You can react to things and counter them, but for the most part, you're going to want to just try to avoid being put in those situations. So, that's kind of what I wanted to mention. A lot of what I talk about here is very applicable to Street Fighter, very applicable to slower games. In later in more offensive games, you're going to have to learn how to adjust to the fact that blocking Magneto and Wolverine 17 times in a row means you're still going to die. So don't try to counter things by understanding the vectors. Don't be like Gamer B and Neutral Jump Roundhouse trying to cover your opponent's attack vectors. You're not going to cover your opponent's attack vectors. They will get in if you try to play defensive like that. Oh my god, why can't I hammer this into my own brain? You know, I block all day in Marvel. I block and try to cover my opponent's attacks. This is not what I should be doing. I should be getting away from them and attacking them and making them have to deal with my offense instead. And oh man, I cannot break this problem. Anyway, sorry. Oh, so frustrating. Anyways, let's talk about Chris G a little bit. Yeah, obviously in Marvel, you can play more defensive options. I've seen plenty of keep away teams. There's a lot of amazing keep away teams. That's the other side of Marvel as well. They can play like the Guile Sonic Boom game, but to the nth degree. And in those kind of situations, you have to understand, you know, it's not really attack vectors, but it is at the same time, because you have to know where Morrigan's fireballs are coming from. A lot of the times when you watch the lesser able Morrigan players, they are very bad at controlling space with the fireballs. They don't throw enough up fireballs. They don't jump and throw straight fireballs or diagonal fireballs. It's actually much easier to get in on these Morrigan players because they do not understand the space controlling. They do not understand how to keep your opponent out. They think spamming doom missiles and throwing fireballs is going to be effective. And yes, when you watch Chris G do it, it looks so stupidly broken. But I guarantee you right now, if you play Morrigan right now, and even if you learn that execution of Sulfist, spamming doom missiles, you are still going to get destroyed by a lot of people. And you're going to find out how hard it is to do. I mean, honestly, Chris G has a control and understanding of that technique. Yes, the technique is effective even at a low level, but it's not Chris G effective until you really start understanding attack vectors and controlling space and training your opponent. If you throw a bunch of straight soul fists and you see your opponent low blocking a bunch of them, all you have to do is think to yourself, now I have left this wide space open up in the sky, so after throwing a few down here, now I'm going to super jump and throw a straight one, or stay on the ground and throw one that's going up because the shadow is going to throw this one over this way and cover that space and such. It's all about training your opponents. No different in Marvel, even on the defensive side. So yeah, again, it's very important to understand the differences between these games. I wish I could give a little bit more concrete examples with games like Tekken and Soul Calibur and Virtua Fighter. Obviously, I am not as well versed in these games. Mortal Kombat, same kind of way. But trust me, these fundamental concepts apply to every single one of these games. And so it's important to learn these things. So, okay, there. That's all I wanted to cover about vectors today. And so I will take one more short break, and when I come back, I will do some Ask jchensor stuff. Again, I'll do it a little bit longer than normal, just because there's no level 3 focus today. David had some personal matters to attend to, so I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of extra Ask jchensor, just to make sure you guys have enough Ultra Chen TV content for the day. And I will also entertain some questions on the stream chat here as well. Again, I'm trying my best now to read the stream chat a little bit more often during these shows so I can answer some questions. And again, a lot of people bring up some very great points here. So I do want to thank people, and I do want to make it feel a little more interactive and participatory. So stick around, everybody, and I will do some Ask jchensor. Be right back.